Si mantienes la cabeza en su sitio, cuando a tu alrededor todos la pierden, si sigues creyendo en ti mismo, cuando los demás dudan, ¿qué oportunidades ves? Si te encuentras con el triunfo y el fracaso, y consigues tratar a esos dos impostores por igual, si eres capaz de ver la oportunidad, el mundo del trading es para ti. Cuando ves la oportunidad, elige.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenas a todos y bienvenidos a esta Trading Talk una vez más pues a través de nuestro canal de YouTube. Y estamos hoy muy contentos de tener un invitado muy especial. Bueno, un invitado no, dos invitados muy especiales, grandes expertos de los mercados y probablemente que pues muchos de vosotros conozcáis a través de haber seguido pues los mercados durante mucho tiempo. Y bueno, es un evento muy especial y contamos hoy con la presencia de Peter Tuchman, una de las caras probablemente más reconocidas del mundo del trading. Y bueno, aparte de Peter, tenemos aquí a uno de nuestros analistas más expertos, como es Salah Budimi, uno de los analistas técnicos de IG más reconocidos y que además ha creado las bandas Budimi, cuales pues bueno, son unas herramientas de trading que creo que nos puede explicar más tarde y que pueden ser de gran utilidad para vosotros, traders. Y bueno, el evento de hoy sí que quería comentar que va a ser en inglés, debido a que Peter todavía no maneja muy bien el español, pero bueno, esperamos que pronto pueda aprender algunas palabras más. Y lo que sí quería comentaros es que tendréis el menú de preguntas en el chat para lanzar todas las preguntas que queráis. Intentaremos traducirlas simultáneamente para que también pues tanto Peter como Salah puedan responderlas. Y lo que también quería comentar es que subiremos el vídeo a YouTube para aquellos que, pues bueno, pues quizás no lo podáis ver entero o queráis ver otra vez la sesión con la traducción para que podáis también, pues, no perderos ninguna de las cosas que nos comenten tanto Peter como Salah. So, well, we are going to start to speak in English now. Well, welcome, Peter. Welcome, Salah. It's been an honor to have you both here. Both of you are been working on the markets for long. Maybe Peter, you are the most known face on the markets. So for me, it's an honor. I think the clients of IG and the audience will be looking to hear from you, from your experiences. And well, what we are going to do is start to making you some questions, like, for example, for how long have you been working on the markets, and how is your feeling when you are on the floor, because you trade on the New York Stock Exchange live, and I think it's the dream for everybody that have been working on the markets and investing on the markets to be on the New York Exchange floor. So what are your experience, your feelings about that?
First of all, I love the way that Ige sounds in Spanish. I'm really honored to be part of Ige España Trading Day 2021. It's a pleasure. My esteemed colleague and friend Salah and Alvaro, thank you. Muchas gracias. I'd love to be able to do this in Spanish maybe one day. And one day, maybe next time we do it in Spain live. That
Hopefully.
would be exciting. So also, I mean, I love IG. I've been part of IG for a while. And it's especially important for everyone to know what a wonderful addition to IG Salah is. His Bumidi bands as an analyst, and we're trading markets. Salah and I do a lot of webinars and interviews around the world talking about markets, about volatility, about the virus, about technical analysis. So together we actually are a great team, and we have a lot to share, and our banter, our communication is very special. So I'm pleased that he is with me here today. So look, I've been on the stock exchange. I guess, I hope some people know who I am, have seen my face. If not, if you Google me, you'll get quite a good laugh out of it. And it's important to know although I do have a very important job, I never take myself too seriously. One must always maintain humility and humor in their work. And as I always say, I hope that everyone out there searches through finance and searches through markets and investing to find something they love to do. Because if you find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. This is the most pivotal generational time in history to be in the markets, right? I often say this is not your grandfather's stock market. And what I mean by that is, the democratization of the trading world, of the investment community that happened back in March 2020, right? With the advent of all the new trading apps, the free apps, whether it be an Robinhood or a eToro or an IG for sure. The most important thing is that everyone now suddenly has been able to be invited to this party, to be part of the investment community. And while very often people think if you got into the market, everyone with an iPhone and $100 can now trade the market, right? Historically, there have been obstacles to entry over time to make it so that so much of a majority of the younger generation and anybody who did not have the money and the careers to get into the market were locked out of this party. And what a shame that is. And so what we've seen since March 2020, the democratization, 40 million plus traders. And I know we've done a lot of work with IG to launch technical analysis, to launch our course called Wall Street Global Trading Academy, to educate the new generation of traders in this market. And IG is an exceptional platform. IG Spain, IG Germany, IG all over the world. And I know they're all independent, but the platform of IG is basically has really adapted itself to this new democratization. I'll go back a little bit on my career. I've been on Wall Street and the floor of the New York Stock Exchange since 1985. It was not always the trajectory of my journey. I grew up in New York City. My parents are European. They came to America in 1949. My education, I had a great education, wonderful parents. My parents spoke many, many languages. So I had a really broad education, and that was sort of super exciting for me. Although finance was not really part of my world. My dad was a doctor, and I went to high school in New York. By the time I went to college, I started to get interested in finance. I was always an entrepreneur. I was always wheeling and dealing throughout high school, starting small businesses and whatnot. When I went to college, I ended up starting a small business, which was music management. I started traveling around the world, managing jazz all over the world. Not in Spain, unfortunately, but maybe one day, but in Holland and in France and whatnot. And then when I came back to college, I started getting into finance, into international business. And I ended up getting a degree in economics and international business. Came back to New York City, I opened a record store. Although we needed money to run it, I still wasn't in finance. But I started trading the commodities markets. And that triggered my interest. Obviously, you can see from my manner and my personality that I'm sort of loud and I'm boisterous and I have a lot of momentum and adrenaline. So I surely needed to find a business that could really complement my personality, as I think everyone should do. There's so many great careers out there. Trading and investment are one of them, but even within the financial industry, branding, marketing, management, finance, investing, trading, it's an amazing time to be alive, an amazing time to be a young person with the opportunities that are out there. I ended up getting a degree in international business. I then went on to get an MBA, although to be perfectly transparent, I never finished the degree. I ended up getting distracted with commodities and my business and never finished my master's in business degree. I ended up going to Africa for 2 years where I started doing accounting. And then I came back to New York in 1985, and I was lucky enough to get a summer internship on the floor of the stock exchange. I hope everyone goes out there and reads about, our industry, about the New York Stock Exchange, about open outcry, about the history of the investment community, trading, and Wall Street. There are movies about it, but they tend to highlight the partying aspect of it. But there are movies and there are historic documentaries and even a lot of work that I've done with Salah too, where we try and share with you the history of what we've learned, our experience. My experience is 35 years of trading and of learning. My career has had different ebbs and ebbs in the tide. There have been good times and bad times. I traded risk arbitrage, and I'm now trading what's called a market on close strategy and technical analysis. So the market is ever evolving. The market is incredibly exciting. I got my job on Wall Street. It was the place for me. If people see pictures of the New York Stock Exchange, the greatest financial institution in the world, where at one time there were 1,500 brokers, 5,000 support staff. We had what was open outcry, as you did in your entry. I did, what a wonderful video in the beginning to just show that that was actually the commodities market that you were showing, where people were screaming and yelling and whatnot. But we on the floor of the stock exchange also had what's called open outcry, where you had many men, mostly men. Now there's some women. At different times in history, there were some women in finance. Now, amazingly, in 2021, women are breaking into the industry in a big way, and that's super exciting. But anyway, for most of my career, the floor of the New York Stock Exchange was a place where you had the human element. It still has it, but at a much higher level of adrenaline and excitement, and as a big part of the working mechanism of the markets. Open outcry, bidding and offering, screaming and yelling, trying to find the right price where an interaction took place. Now everyone, I would imagine, on this call, they enter in their order in through IG on their app, and it goes through the market. Hopefully Salah gets a chance to tell you if it's a good trade or a bad trade, or you're using the Bumidi bands to curate your trading. But everything's now done electronically. Back in those days, up until fairly recently, I must say, the trading floor was the point of reference. It was the point of execution of stock, right? The idea of where a stock was. You've got and I need to sort of paint this wonderful picture. You've got brokerage firms that have trading desks, that have portfolio managers, they have advisors. They have a lot of money that comes into their firm, whatever company it is. IG is a trading platform, but there are other brokerage firms that historically that we know about, JP Morgan, Merrill Lynch, and whatnot. And so people put their money there. Their advisors decide what stocks they want to invest in, hedge funds, institutions, pension funds. And then they come up with the idea, we want to buy 1 million shares of XYZ. That order flow comes down to the floor of the stock exchange. Now it's done electronically, but in the old days, it was done on a telephone, and you had papers and pads, you had screaming and yelling, you had clerks picking up telephones.
And Peter, how was the biggest trade you made on the phone or in the past? Maybe you shout 1 million or 10 million or $100 million of.
I must say there was a wonderful period in the early 2000s before we started having the electronic marketplace, where we were still human beings using telephones. And Citibank, I'm sure everyone knows the symbol is C. Yeah. And it was trading at $3 a share, right? It was after the financial crisis. And of course, a lot of the banks in the United States got a bailout. Many of them lost a big percentage of their value. And there were these things, what we call rebalances, that stocks are sitting in the indices like the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And there was one day where I maybe traded 200 million shares of Citibank. It was an incredibly exciting day for me. Part of it was successful, part of it wasn't. But, look, the adrenaline, the excitement of large amounts of shares, the amount of money on a daily basis today, I trade large sums of money. I don't trade as much volume per share. But there was once I put on a cross of 8 million shares. I'm not sure. I think it was it wasn't a Spanish company. I thought it was a Brazilian company. But historically, I've traded for institutions and for hedge funds. I've done huge trades, as we do on the floor of the stock exchange. In the beginning of my career, I remember during the days of risk arbitrage, I traded millions and millions and millions of shares a day. I did it as a clerk. I did it as a broker. And what's interesting is, the floor of the stock exchange is one person to another trading stocks. We never transact money, right? So you're dislocated from the reality that 1 million shares of $100 stock is a lot of money. So you're like boots on the ground. You're at the point of sale. And basically, some people, it's not the job for everybody, right? Some people thrive on excitement and chaos, and that's me. Some people need to wake up, have a coffee, read the paper, sit at their desk, wind up. That's not me and Salah. When the bell rings, we are off to the races, kind of like a racehorse. But
So speaking about chaos, what do you think, or how did you survive to the trading during the pandemic situation? Because markets were completely crazy during last year. So how did you feel, or how did you trade over the last year with that kind of new market behavior?
I appreciate the question. Look, we've talked, and Salah and I have discussed the different crises that the market has experienced from, in my experience, the crash of 1987, financial crisis, and then obviously the pandemic. And each crisis has different components to it. The crash of 87 was caused by over leveraging and by an insurance problem and by the beginning of electronic markets in the market that caused a breakdown in fear and anxiety in the market. The crash of 2007, obviously we know, and we sort of were reminded of it last week with the Evergrande situation, where people were selling mortgages and real estate to people who could not particularly afford it. They were deeply over leveraged. China has a lot of regulations, and there was that, so that was sort of similar in many ways to the countrywide mortgage crisis of 2007-8, which decimated the banking industry. And that's a much longer story than we're going to go into today. But trading the pandemic was an extraordinary experience, unlike anything I have experienced in my 35 years of trading. So first of all, you have a financial crisis. You then have an economic crisis. And then you have a health crisis, right? So obviously there was no playbook for this. And obviously in the beginning of it, look, we went on February 12th, 2020, the markets were trading at a record high. Across the board, every indices. The bank's balance sheets were at a record high. They were robust. They had recovered. Took 9 years plus to recover from the financial crisis of 07-08. But in 2020, on February 12th, the economy was good. The consumer was in a good shape. The banks were robust, and the market was trading at record highs. That was before we knew anything about the virus, okay? Although, you know what, if you push me a little bit and you poke the bear, were some people who did know a little more, but didn't tell anybody about it. But as we saw the virus become a reality, going from China to Italy, we started seeing people dying, to the Middle East, to Europe, to you guys, and then across the ocean to the United States. And the reality of it happened. And the markets started realizing, oh my God, we have an unprecedented economic global pandemic going on here, which our president finally declared on March 15th. By then, we had gone from that February 12th record high to a low of down 10,000 plus points in the Dow, multi-digit losses in the S&P, a complete crash in any way. And I don't use that word lightly. We've seen many consolidations and pullbacks and whatnot, but in my opinion, that was clearly a crash, right? And on March 23rd, 2020, we hit a record low. You asked me the question, how did I navigate those days on the floor of the stock exchange? And in person, how it was different than anything else. Opening the market down 7%. We have circuit breakers. The minute we opened, we closed because the market was getting hurt so badly. One of the wonderful things about the New York Stock Exchange is we have this thing called a circuit breaker, which means that, look, fear, anxiety, and unknowns in a market are the worst thing that you can have happen. People tend to get emotional about money and they overreact. Legitimately, there was a problem going on. We obviously ended up living it out over the last couple of years. You in Spain, Salah in Amsterdam and Germany, and clearly me in the United States, as also I got COVID and almost died from it. So it's very personal to me. But what ended up transpiring when the reality that this was about to be something we had never seen before, economically, financially, and health-wise, the market started selling off in a massive way, legitimately, right? We do know, and Salah and I always talk about it, historically, every one of these huge crashes has been more of a buying opportunity than a selling opportunity, but we cannot dismiss how crazy that time was, how devastating it was to people, to economies. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people throughout the world ended up dying. Businesses came to a complete halt. Not a human being on earth was not affected in some way, emotionally, financially, and health-wise by this pandemic, right? Economies were shut down. We've never seen anything like this in history. On the floor of the exchange, it was quite an amazing experience because market kept stopping trading because of the circuit breakers 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Markets were going down 1,000 points at a clip. Companies were getting cut in half, right? And then you were looking at each other on the floor. We are still a human market on the New York Stock Exchange, right? There are about 700 or 800 of us. And we were looking at each other, realizing, you could see that fear that, I don't know if we're going to survive this. I'm not sure my grandparents or my parents are not going to get sick and die. And then I don't know about my 401k. I don't know about my job. I don't know about my whatever, right? Everything sort of came tumbling down. From a trading point of view, we need to, as a trader, at the point of sale of stocks, in a crisis or any day of the week, we need to put aside all of that chatter because it's about money and can't be about emotion. And so that's one of the characteristics of a trader that really makes one a good trader is they can't get emotional about money, right? They need to make their decisions based on experience. And so even though we're a little bit electronic, and while we were looking in each other's eyes, like, are we going to make it through this? This is some real stuff here, guys, right? Because people are dying, right? The world is getting shut down. And so it was wild. It was crazy. It was fearful. There was anxiety. Yet at the point of sale on a daily basis, we had to show up. You couldn't crumble, right? And we traded that market all the way down. And then we also traded it all the way back up, right? We never stopped trading because there's nothing worse. We stopped trading for circuit breakers, but we never shut the market down and said, oh my God, we can't handle this. Right? Because as we know, we've seen it around the world when they closed the banks in Greece. You've got it sometimes in the Middle East where people don't have access to their money. There's nothing worse you can do than shut people off from their investments and from their money, because then you get fear and you get a stampede. So it was for me, it was the most chaotic experience I've ever had. For me, it was the most exciting experience because I thrive on chaos.
And what do you think about the markets nowadays, and what are your expectations for the future? Because the market has changed a lot, and we have new participants, a lot of a new wave of traders, like the Wall Street Bets forums that are coming up. What are your thoughts about where are we going, and what are the future of the market right now?
I appreciate the question. I think it's very important for people to know that listening to the internet for financial advice is a mistake. That my experience will tell you. And I will, after this question, toss it to my friend and one of the brightest people I know in the industry, Salah, to tell you more about how one should make their decisions, because decisions in the market need to be made from an educated point of view. But I will take the question because I really love it. Look, for me, we saw an influx of 40 million plus traders come into the market during the pandemic. Part of it was the democratization of the trading community, that everybody had access to a cell phone and money could trade. We also had people who were sheltered in place and at home and got their focus on this Wall Street Bets and roaring kitties and all this craziness and whatnot. And then the meme stocks and that whole industry. So suddenly you had all eyes on the market. People were at home. They had lost their jobs. Maybe in America, they got a little bit of a stimulus check. And they were all focused on the internet, and the internet blew up with all this stuff about markets. The meme stock phenomenon was created, Wall Street Bets, Reddit, and all that information. I must say to you that for me, the fact that everyone is now invited to this party that I call Wall Street and Trading makes me the happiest man alive, right? I love that you are all finally now here to be with us. My biggest fear is that everyone thinks this is a get-rich-quick scheme. They think it's gambling. Everybody who got invested in the market on March 23rd, 2020, who hit a button, thinks now they have what's called diamond hands. They think they can never lose money. But that is a mistake, and that is wrong, okay? And my biggest fear is that now that everyone's been invited to this party, that they end up drinking too much cerveza, as we talked about before, and they eat a bunch of food they shouldn't eat, and they end up getting sick and never coming back to the party, right? And by that, my analogy, I mean that they come in, they trade, they listen to Wall Street Bets because the stock AMC is going to the moon, and they don't sell, they lose all their money because they mortgage their grandmother's house and they run away from the party and never come back. I want everyone to love this market, love investing, invest in stocks, not stuff, but I want them to be successful and make their decisions based on an educated bet, right? And an educated advice. So, as I said, this is not your grandfather's stock market. And there are stocks that are trading in a volatile vacuum that are unbelievable. And the internet is on fire with advice, right? And everyone has an opinion, right? And once you hear a story about what you should be buying on the internet, that train has already left the station. When you have a stock like GameStop, which was basically a bankrupt company trading at $2, goes from 20 to 60 to 483, and then back to 60, you have a problem. The problem being that there were a few people who became GameStop millionaires, Dogecoin millionaires, but a handful at best. There are people who bought stock at $483. And then over the next 3 days, it went to $151. And at the same time, everyone on the internet was saying, it's going to 1,000. You got to stay in it. And I promise you, more people in your community, in the young new generation of day trading community, have lost money, have blown up trading accounts using the internet as a financial advisor, using hope as a strategy for trading, because that's not the way it works. What I do, I have a partner named David Green. We are together in our trading course called Wall Street Global Trading Academy, and Salah is one of our advisors, and we've curated a course. We have a certain mottos, which means hope is not a strategy for trading. Never turn a winning trade into a losing trade. No one ever got broke taking a profit. And so if you're an investor, historically, markets go from the bottom left to the upper right. From 1929 till now, the market, the S&P, have outperformed everything, and they always end up going up. So long term, if you're an investor, get in the market because it's a wonderful thing to do. This is a generational time, and just put your money and let it go. But if you now want to take the opportunity to learn about trading from Salah and from me and from my partner David Green and Wall Street Trading Academy, you need to follow certain rules, right? This is not cowboys and Indians. This is not the Wild West. It actually is the Wild West. When the stock goes from 20 to 480 and back to 5, that is the Wild West. You're seeing stocks move because of this riot, right? This onslaught of the internet, right? But they're not trading on valuation. They're not trading on technicals. They're not trading on any way where an uneducated trader can do anything else but get blown up. So my message to you in this whole thing is that I beg everyone, I'm thrilled you're all here trading the market. There's nothing I love more. Whatever brought you here, crypto, Dogecoin, meme stocks, whatever brought you to see us or IG or brought you into IG, you need to step it up a little bit and educate yourself. People ask me all day, and I know they ask Salah, what stock should I buy? What do you think about Palantir? What do you think about GameStop? Is AMC going to the moon? And I say to them, look, I'm not your advisor. I'm not a stock picker. I would rather teach you how to make that decision for yourself, right? So that you can go on and you can call me up and go, hey, Einstein, I just saw this stock is trading, setting up for a beautiful technical trade. I think it's a good buy, right? It's like, if somebody's hungry, you can give them a bag of food and a week they've eaten the food. But if I build you a farm, you can feed yourself forever. Same thing about the markets. Salah is an educator and a teacher. He's built a thing called Bumidi bands, which gives people the added probability to win more times than they lose. We teach risk management, stop orders. The market has given you the opportunity, if you learn all the things that we can teach you, to be able to be profitable, to make money. Trust me, we don't win every time we trade. We have losing days, we have losing trades. However, we set things up. It's all about probability. Technical analysis is the gift in a market trading with the volatility this is. And what that is that's giving you charts, that's setting up your charts with certain things, moving averages. Salah will explain more about that later. But putting the probability in your favor that you will win more times than you lose. Not knowing anything about a stock, having an opinion because someone on the internet said so, is nothing more than throwing a dart at a board and hoping that it goes up, right? Planning on buying a stock because they predict earnings or the economic news is one where price action, guys, is the key. And Salah will also explain that to you. So this is a pivotal time in the markets. I'm thrilled everyone's here, but I beg of you all to learn and educate yourselves so that you could be profitable and enjoy this market long term.
So yeah, that's the key. I think education is the key to be successful in the market. We have also a question here from the YouTube fans that ask you about your favorite markets. Do you like to trade maybe commodities, indices, stocks? And obviously, you said about technical analysis. That is the tool that you think works better. You like technical analysis, fundamental analysis. What are your thoughts about this?
So right now, I am still an active trader on the floor of the stock exchange. I do not trade my own money, right? Up until recently, I've never owned a share of stock in my life, okay? I've been basically been blessed with having great customers who I work with them using trading strategies to help make them money. And I am paid on a commission-based business. So that's where I am at, and I need to be transparent about that, okay? What I trade and the business model that I've built with a couple of people, my son being one of my partners, and what a wonderful thing that is. We're the last father and son team on the floor of the stock exchange. My son Benny is we trade the S&P 500, right? And that's we call them the spiders, the SPY, and Salah loves them also. Some people use them as a hedge for the market. Basically, it's a index that tracks 500 stocks. Right? Originally, back in the early days, they created the Dow Jones Industrial Average. That was 30 stocks that were the industrials that were the beginning workings of the United States economy. Then later on, many years later, they created the S&P 500. It's an index that is 500 stocks in the whole market. 378 of them trade on the New York Stock Exchange. The rest trade on NASDAQ. It includes industrials. It includes consumer staples. It includes a number of tech stocks. So it also is basically a great way to track the overall movement of the market. So for me, the S&P 500 is a wonderful vehicle for trading. It's very volatile. It moves, but it tracks the market in a big way. And the business model that I trade for the customers of my firm use the S&P 500 as a great gauge of trading and all the stocks that trade within it. But I must say that for me, and I've learned this from Salah, I learned it from my partner, David Green at Wall Street Global Trading Academy, is that, look, fundamental analysis historically has been a wonderful thing. It basically, you read into the nooks and crannies of a company, what their earnings are, what their guidance are, what they stand for, how they treat their employees, and what their products are going forward. And you invest in it from a fundamental point of view. But what we've seen since March 2020 is this market is like cowboys and Indians, as I described. It's a completely wild, volatile market with the influx of the Wall Street bets, with the virus, the 3 Vs, I call it, the virus, the vaccine, and volatility. This is a market that is wild and crazy. The vacuum moves of stocks that are going up 10, 20, 30% intraday is unheard of. And if you don't have the template of technical analysis, which gives you the information where stocks, the probability that a stock is going to stop going down and go up. We use moving averages, we use relative strength index, we use pivot points. Salah will go into the Boumidi bands because they use similar things, although just for the record, for all of you in this call, he's a friggin' genius. Anyway, all that going forward, and you should all check out Boumidi bands. But in this new market, if you're asking my opinion, technical analysis is the greatest gift in a volatile market, right? Because markets are moving on headlines. There are algorithms that make markets go up and down. There are actually algorithms that can read content from the social media and actually directly engage in a market. When your community sees a stock go up, 30% in 8 seconds, it's because something came out on Twitter and there's an algorithm that reads it, can actually enter the stock market. An algorithm can engage an order and buy 1 million shares of XYZ. Well, if you don't have some kind of edge, you're going to get hurt. If you've done all your fundamental analysis and you've decided this stock is a good buy or a short, and some kind of crazy news comes out that may be a rumor, and an algorithm takes your stock up 30% or down, you're going to get blown up. So we are here in, in America, we have baseball, right? And you can hit a home run in baseball, right? Which is where you run all around the bases, you get 1 point. Or you can hit singles and doubles. With technical analysis and day trading, we're interested in making small bits of money every day, trying not to lose, when we lose, not lose large sums of money. And then if you make a little bit of money every day, by the end of the week, you've made a nice living. You set a target for your goals, how much you want to make every day, depending on your risk, right? Some people have a lot of money, you want to make 1,000 a day. Some people want to get into day trading. In the beginning, you trade 1 share, 10 shares, you make $100 a day, $500 a week, right? That's $52,500 a year. It's a beautiful thing, right? So this is an amazing opportunity if you learn from him, if you learn from me, my partner David Green and I at Wall Street Global Trading Academy. For me, 35 years experience. He's got many years. David Green has 35 too. I'm asking you to give technical analysis a shot because from my experience in today's market, which is not your grandfather's stock market or your father's stock market, technical analysis is an extraordinary tool. We're giving you a toolbox and we're filling it with the high-end, state-of-the-art tools to navigate this market, which on a day-to-day basis is wild. It's volatile, right? One day the virus is gone. One day there's a brand new virus. We got a variant here. You've got volatility. You've got algorithms. You've got news. You got problems with China. You got Everguard. You got the markets are going up and down thousands of points, right? Last week we saw the market go 900 down 900 on the Everguard story. Then the press said market's going down. We're seeing a 10% correction. Oh my God, everybody gets scared. The next 4 days, and I always say one day doesn't make a market. The next 4 days the market was up. Then we saw the market this week go down on inflation fears and the yield curve spiking. Well, that's a big deal. But is there follow through? No. So in markets like this, with this kind of volatility, if you add the toolbox of technical analysis in, and Salah will tell you about it, it's extraordinary. You can make small, beautiful little sums of money on a short-term basis. If you're a long-term investor, have that in a separate account. But if you want to get some disposable income and have some fun and learn this business, which you guys do at IG so beautifully, learn technical analysis so that you can really get in this market. There's no more exciting time to ever be in the market.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. And I think right now we can move to Salah that could maybe show us some trading and technical analysis tools that can help us to beat the markets, which is the goal of all of us.
Yeah, gracias, Alvaro, and señoras. I'm here today with you, and I thank you for Peter Tuchman for your first invitation, and I'm really happy to be a guest here today for you with IG España. And yes, of course, trading with education is a must, and of course, I don't want to talk too much. I want to show you pictures. Pictures are showing much more than 1,000 words, I guess. And I'm gonna share with you my screen right now. First of all, maybe I can introduce myself. I'm head of markets for IG in Germany and the Netherlands. So I'm in Frankfurt usually and in Amsterdam. And yes, so I use, of course, also my demo account from IG. This is the German one, but actually it's the same, just translated into German like the Spanish one. So those people who are using IG España accounts, they will be familiar with that. So before I'm going to show you actually what we already heard about the Bumidi bands, I'm making a live stream in Germany where we are trading or trying to find out setups, especially with technical analysis, statistical and volatility approaches. And maybe just a quick overview about what is happening right now. Euro dollar, we have heard about, that the dollar is getting a strength right now and euro is weak. Actually, we are heading forward to the south because this trading pattern that I want to show you and that we already made in our demo account here with our IG account shows us something really interesting from a technical perspective. First of all, if we just, because we don't have so much time now to go into deep with this analysis, but this is why technical analysis is so nice. We can start here in May this year. We have starting a new trend to the downside. Look on this averages. I use moving averages, exponential moving averages, 21, 55, 100, for example. And we see they are all downward looking. And every pullback that we have been seeing to the moving averages was sold again. So this was a criteria showing me that this trend continuation can lead forward, even if we are looking here on a daily basis. What happened this week is that we lost a really important support area, which was founded in April this year. The moving average, the last pullback here in September actually, was failing at the moving average and started a new trend continuation to the downside. We started with a short here last week with a knockout certificate with IG. We took a knockout level at least above 18, about this pivot level that already Peter Tuchman actually explained or talked about a little bit. It's a nice indicator that I use as well. If you want to learn more about it, I'm on Twitter. I'm of course also working at IG. So if you have further questions, you can always reach me out via Alvaro or via IG España. And yeah, what is happening in Euro, for example, just real quick, we see that this trend continuation might go forward if we can see a further dollar strength, what we see right now. This is why I also actually used gold as a hedge, but today we have Thursday, and I use also statistical trading environments. Statistically, the gold price, the best days in gold to go long are Thursday, Friday, and Monday. And there is a Friday effect that I call. So I go long at the evening in Thursday, and I close the gold position on Friday. And you can see, even if we had now a really weak week in gold, because of course dollar is trending and it's weakening some commodities like gold and the forex market like euro. But what we have seen, surprisingly, coincidence or not, but today, which is Thursday, we see a new pullback heading to 1,760, and we see it perfectly right now. This momentum, what I see statistically, can happen, but it's not that I trade blindly seasonal patterns or seasonal statistical effects. Tomorrow is the first trading day in October, and I have something for you here. What I do, I hope you can see my screen still with this trading performance, Alvaro.
Yes.
Yes.
And what I do, or what I found out, is the first trading day of a month has a significant bullish bias or a bullish tendency, if you want to say so. And this is something what I observed, and I analyzed it. There are reasons why we see a first trading day bullish tendency. Money is flowing into the market, for example, like another effect that I use, the mid-month effect. But anyway, this is just a performance of 2021. I don't show you this performance only for this year because it went good. There are I have made a performance list till 1995. And what we can see here, just for a quick overview over this year, if you would go long on the last day in the month, previous month, and you would close at the end of the first trading day on Wall Street, you can see this chart, Dow Jones, S&P 500, NASDAQ 100. If you would do so, you would already earn almost 900 points in the Dow Jones by just trading 9 times in this year, because you do that only once a month. So you are trying to reduce your risk, actually, even if you see, okay, this return is not so much like if I would do a buy and hold in Dow Jones. Okay, you're right, but you can see that you are not holding the market the whole month or year. You are just trading 12 times a year. And this is something what I just use, not blindly. I see this effect, and then I use sentiment, for example. I use technical analysis to decide whether I use this capital inflow and this bullish momentum, which might come in the next day, to make a trade. So because tomorrow, coincidence, it's the first trading day, and I wanted to show you as well this effect. There are a lot of different effects: mid-month effect, gold rush rally, like I showed you here today. Nasdaq, maybe just a short position, then I move over to Bumidi bands. Nasdaq, we have seen a head and shoulder formation on a daily basis, and we are right now, you can see it here, we are testing this moving average, which is the 100 EMA, and we have actually tested this support line or this neckline of this head and shoulder formation. And what is typically happening, if the Nasdaq is going further to the downside, then I need a confirmation. If we have this head and shoulder formation, we go down, we hit the neckline, which is this green support, we hit the moving average, which is the 100 orange line, we go down, we pull back, and then this would be the confirmation for me that this trend will go possibly lower. But now I'm long in this position because I think we're going to test this 100 EMA, pull back exactly this A to B distance. We're going to pull back up, heading to 15,000 points. And if we not defeat this area, this could be a possible indication that this trend could continue lower, heading 14,000, sorry. Okay, but we go back to Bumidi bands, and maybe this is my trading view environment where I programmed the Bumidi bands, but I have also a picture for you which will show you in the coming weeks. This is pro real time, and these are the Bumidi bands already implemented, programmed in pro real time. People or clients of IG will have the possibility to use Bumidi bands in pro real time. Only if you are an IG client, you can use it then by using your pro real time account. It's coming really soon, so I don't want to tell you any deadline, but it's coming. And what is Bumidi bands doing? I use implied volatility. Peter talked about volatility, and we know Bollinger Bands, of course. I met Bollinger, and great guy, of course, great idol that we have learned from. And he motivated me also to do further so with my Bumidi Bands, because it's not the same like Bollinger is using. Bollinger or other volatility indicators are using historical volatility. Yeah, they look to the history and check what is the bandwidth of the price moving changes. What I do is I take the implied volatility, like the VIX is an implied volatility index for S&P 500. The VDAX is the volatility index for the DAX, for the German stock market. And then with my formula, I created a normal distributed bandwidth where I want to say really clearly in a statistical way, the sigma, the first standard deviation Bumidi band is telling you nothing else than there is a 68% probability that we will stay in this bandwidth on this day. What happened today? Exactly. We started with a nice gap up and done heading down, but we have been closing in the Bumidi band. This is exactly what Bumidi bands want to tell you. They want to show you invisible support and resistant lines directly in the chart. How I use them to filter trades is what I did also in my live stream this week or last week was really nice, because you can see often mean reversion. A mean reversion meaning like you are heading to the upper or lower side, yeah, and then you see that we are going back into the bandwidth. At close, we have been surprisingly closing in the bandwidth. Next day, or 32 September, we tested, you see that? We tested the Bumidi band, and then we directly moved back into the bandwidth. There are, of course, days where we break the lower or upper Bumidi band, and we will not come back. But there are indications where I can see whether there will be a mean reversion or not. I can show you that in a different episode or on Twitter if you follow me there. But I use the Bumidi bands if I use turbo certificates, for example, if I see a test of upper or lower Bumidi band, I try to do trade like this week. We have been crossing the Bumidi bands. Then I took along with Tobos here. Then we have been coming back into the bandwidth. I took the half of my profits. I had a knockout level, which was almost here. Sorry, here like this. But when we have been coming back, I have already put my stop into profit. So when there will come a breakout again, like we have seen here, where we have been not closing in the bandwidth, I'm already out. I already took my profits. I reduced the risk and I'm gone. Doesn't happen. It doesn't matter what will happen afterwards. And what I as well do, I have my rules. If I trade Bumidi bands like this, I close at closing of the market. So I will not put the position even further, even if it's going into my direction.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so, and guys, just so you all know, I'm also forever a student of the market, and there are people like Salah who have developed new things, and everyone should avail themselves of all this information within the technical analysis space. Rarely do we have something new come in that's this exciting, so I'm still learning it too. Explain to me. So you've got there's the upper part of the Bumidi band would be resistance, the lower part of the Bumidi band would be support, but it seems like they're sort of sometimes far from where the markets are trading. Do we use them? I guess you call them knockout, we call them stop orders. When they approach the support, is that signify a level where you would get into a long trade and use the Bumidi band as a knockout or a stop on the downside and the same way on the upside? Or does it actually have to hit it for it to be an initiation of a trade?
Exactly what you said. It starts with hitting the resistance, the black line, which is the resistance or support. But then I will look whether volatility will pick up further or not. Because like the days where we break out, it's on the short side really easy. If we break out and you can see it surprisingly when we see this breaks 15:30 German time, which is the opening in Wall Street, New York. So either European market is crossing the band. We will wait on Wall Street. If Peter is happy and euphoric, market will head back and make a mean reversion. If you guys in US wake up with a bad mood, maybe you will continuate this trend. And this is where I look on VIX. If VIX is starting to pick up or is heading further, what VDAX or in Spain or other volatility indices did, then I will try to change, because there's also another idea to trade Bumidi bands, which is the volatility breakout idea. So if volatility still is picking up, then you will go in that direction where the trend is coming from. And I use also the second Bumidi band. In per real time, you will have the possibility, not like here, you will have the possibility to change the first sigma and the second. And surprisingly, on 20 September, here was the second Bumidi band. You can see that. So first was broken, and then we have formed a new bottom here. What I also say is for stops, for risk and money management, I don't use stops in this area here, because 68% probability that the market will test this area either on the upper side or lower side. So if I use an intraday trade with Bumidi bands, they are already telling me, Salah, if you take a stop here in this area, of course, you need to be aware that the probability is 68% that a market movement, a random market movement, could lead to a break of your stop. That's it.
Okay. Thank you for the answer. Go ahead.
Okay, I gotta stop sharing my screen. I think if there are any questions, it's good that we can communicate together. I could talk million of hours with you about
Yeah, what I would say, and I think the audience would like to know, is where they can find more about the Bumidi bands and where can they learn how to use them on the platform, because I think obviously looks great, but how can they maybe learn how to use them?
Yes, they can come up to me on Twitter at Salabumidi, but if we will have it coming soon, it's not too long, then it will be on per real time. So IG clients, I can offer you, and I can promise you, because I'm an IGler. I was a client at IG before when I was a student. Now I work at IG. Alvaro is my colleague and my friend. If it's on per real time, we can have a session together for IG España, and we can make some webinars or events together where I can show you how to use Bumidi Bands. Un poquito en español, pero no, it's not my major language, but we can do that.
Sounds great, and yes, we will do that. But because they cannot use them for the moment in pro real time, and will appear maybe soon automatically.
Exactly.
They don't have to do anything.
No, so they just need to type my name as indicator Bumidi Band, and they're gonna find it. But now you can use it on TradingView. If you follow me, you can see it on Twitter. Then you can use it for DAX. But I created the Bumidi bands for U.S. markets, so for Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and Russell 2000 and S&P. So for all U.S. markets and for European markets. So you will use it also for IBEX, for CAC 40, for DAX, for IX, for Swiss market, Swedish market, Swiss market. So you can use it for all them, and you don't need to change it per real time. You just need to go to the market at the indicator, and you will see the bandwidth for that market. It's not the same for every market. You know, it's the formula that is taking the closing price and the implied volatility, and then it's creating this normal distributed bandwidth.
Okay, guys, I think it's been a great session. Peter, Salah, thank you so much for being with us today to join our trading talks in the Spanish version. For the audience, I will say that we will have soon the translation and the video on our channel, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And I would suggest to everybody to follow Peter and Salah. They have their trading academy. So I think it's been an honor for me and for all the audience. So thank you so much both, and hope to see you both in Spain soon to have a live event, which is something that I think everybody is looking forward.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. It's really fun to have a new audience. I suggest everybody follow Salah and reach out to him. He's very accessible, and I'm sure he's going to make an educational video once it goes live on IG, so you'll all understand it, because it's not easy, but it's incredibly valuable. And those who want to reach out to me, I am also very accessible, very visible. I'm on Einstein of Wall Street on Instagram, as the same on Twitter. I do have my Wall Street Global Trading Academy website. You can check it out. There's a course there. One of the fun parts of our program is everyone who buys the course gets a lifetime mentorship and coaching from us live every Thursday night with me and my partner, David Green, who's one of the great educators in the technical analysis space. Everyone who buys the course gets a Zoom invite every Thursday, and they spend an hour and a half live with us answering questions about the course. So our goal, Salah's goal, is to give you all the tools you need to be successful trading this market, a market that's more exciting than ever before. I'm available to you guys. If you're all interested, we can all be back again anytime, and hopefully next year live in Spain.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, guys, and take care, and let's beat the markets.
Let's beat the markets.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Adiós.
Adiós.
Bye-bye.
Hasta luego.